we also tried to change. We are into printing and publishing, but looking the short span of attention of people, we have also tried to transform. So we have brought Kahani Kashida. These are 8 different stories in Punjabi. Each story is around 9 to 12 minutes, and you can all hear it on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast, Facebook Podcast. They are lovely stories. Punjabi में ये stories हैं. मैं मैम को रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा थोड़ा बहुत इस इन कहानियों के बारे में बताएं, क्योंकि इन कहानियों से हमें पता चल जाता है कि जो हमारे पंजाब की मीरास है और जो तहज़ीब है, जो कुछ कुछ ऐसी कहानियां हैं जो इनने मुझे मतलब भेजी है. हमें भी 3-4 महीने लगे इसको सेट करने में, और एट द एंड ऑफ द स्टोरी शी इज़ क्राइंग. तो मैंने जब वो सुनी कार चलाते चलाते, मेरा भी दिल मतलब दिल की धड़कन बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गई. एंड आई एम श्योर आप भी जब वो सुनेंगे, चाहे जॉगिंग करें, चाहे आप कुकिंग करें, चाहे आप वॉक करें, ट्राई टू लिसन टू दीज लवली स्टोरीज एंड यू विल डेफिनेटली एंजॉय. मैम प्लीज़ शेयर अ बिट अबाउट दीज स्टोरीज. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Afan. Thank you so much, Dr. Sumita Mishra, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, my family, my friends, everybody who's made time to be a part of this afternoon. Kahani Kashida has been a long, long dream for me. And Afan and Dr. Sumita Mishra have made it possible. And finally, देखो कागज़ां तो ज़्यादा लंबी उम्र कहानियां दी हुंदी है, और कई बारी कागज़ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਕਿਤੇ ਗੁਆਚ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਕੇ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਘਟ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ. ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਾਤਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਜ਼ੂਅਲ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਔਰ ਉਹ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੰਬਾ ਜਿਉਂ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰਿਸ਼ ਹੈ ਕਿ all of you kindly make time and go on to Spotify and listen to the stories and kindly give Mr. Afan Yeshvi the feedback. One of the reasons that we brought it into the audio form also was that very few people are now familiar with the dialect, with the language, the written word. They enjoy the spoken word far more, and also that it gives them the freedom to do whatever else they are doing along with it. And also one humble request to all of you: kindly keep the spirit of literati alive. Keep on contributing with your time, with your inputs, and also your presence. Wherever we are just trying to make the world a far more beautiful place than the one that we have inherited. So thank you so much for your time, and do watch us again here next year.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And with that, ਕਹਾਣੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਲੰਬੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਈ ਕਹਾਣੀ. It's now time that we bring to you Benevolence, a cathartic outpour penned by Anu Girdhar. If I can just have Anu Girdhar ji on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dr. Anu Girdhar, MDS in prosthodontics, professor in a reputed dental college, Chandigarh. And may I also request Dr. Puneet to come up on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for this new story by Dr. Anu Girdhar, a cathartic outpour, Benevolence.
Would you like to say 2 words about the book?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Anu Girdhar, a prosthodontist by profession. I am actually not from the literature world because I don't have any literature degree. It's my interest to read good books that led me to write my thoughts and emotions in a poetic form. I am extremely grateful to Sumitra Mishra ma'am, who has given me the opportunity to launch my book at such a big platform of Literati. I'm equally thankful to Mr. Afan Yaswi of Rivers Publishing Group, who was able to publish my book in such a short span of time. My poetry is my catharsis penned on a piece of paper. Anything that triggers the emotions of a woman is inscripted as a reaction in my book. I would like to recite a small poem, Don't Wait Until I Am Dead. This is the title of the poem. What happens when you die? At the funeral, loved ones cry. Speak on love. For a glimpse of you, they try. Suddenly, everyone cares. Might not have even recognized when you were here. Why did they wait until you died to say what they needed to say? Why did they wait to love you back and convey? Don't wait until I am dead. Life is precise and fragile. My dear friend, when I am dead, don't play melancholy rhymes. Don't miss my warmth in cold winter nights. Don't miss my jokes, my mood swings, my cuddles, my obsessions, and my fights. Miss me for what I left behind. Miss me for my hugs, for my love notes. Miss me in my poems I used to write. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anu. That was indeed heartfelt and heartwarming. Well, they say that feedback is the breakfast of champions, and they also say that winners take it all. But surely there must be a culture to winners, right? There must be some things that they do which are different than all the others. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite on the dais Major General Neeraj Bali, Sena Medal, and post-service, we know him as the CEO of an engineering PMC company with over 100 mega infrastructure projects. And with that, I hand it over to him to talk about his book, The Winning Culture. All yours, sir.
So, my book is called The Winning Culture, and in the subtitle it makes a rather bold claim. Lessons from the Indian Army to transform your business. Now, let me explain to you why I've said so. After I retired from the army some 7 years ago, having served about 4 decades, and became CEO of 2 different companies, one after the other, I realized that anybody you meet in the corporate sector, he talks about some shortcoming of culture. Somebody says, हमारे culture में ownership नहीं दिखती, कोई कहता है accountability नहीं है, कोई कहता है initiative नहीं है. People talk about the lack of culture. So that was the first good news, that everyone is aware that there is this thing called culture, which is a prime mover, which like a silent river drives you in a certain direction. But the bad news was that I didn't see anyone or most people knowing how to change that culture, how to tweak it, leave alone how to transform it. And that got me thinking. I was blessed to be in an organization, the Indian Army, in which ordinary people do extraordinary things, not because they are more patriotic, not because they are more dedicated, not because they are more nationalistic, simply because they are driven by a very robust, a very effective culture. Something we've inherited from the British, then tweaked it, transformed it to make it our own. And I began to wonder whether there is a case for building a bridge between the learnings that I had from the army and something that can then move to the corporate world, not only the corporate world, every organization. Now, before I go any further, I must add a caveat. It is not the theme of my book that anybody should copy the army. It is not my case that anyone can copy the army's culture. That will be a nonsensical idea, because business is a different environment. The army works in a very different dynamic. My point here is this. There are certain universal attributes, some things that apply to all of us that can be picked up. And to do that, what I've done is, I've done a lot of research spoken to a lot of people who've done extraordinary things in the army, stirring things, inspiring things, things that even move me to tears. And those people are every man and every woman. They are not Paramvira Chakra type gladiators. In every organization, there are people who do very well, but I'm talking about what a rank and file do, what everybody can do. And from those stories, in 8 chapters, I have drawn specific conclusions based on my experience as a CEO of a very successful company as to what applies to us in our lives and in our business. Now, there are, as I said, there are 8 chapters. 7 of them deal with one attribute of the Army's culture. Let me just quickly talk about 3 without taking too much of your time. There is a curiously called chapter, Why Are Officers Dying? Now, if you've read the news from Rajouri 2 days ago, there were 2 officers and 2 Jawans who died. When you read any news coming out from J&K, unfortunately, and by the way, I'm not celebrating war here and I'm not celebrating violence. I'm only celebrating human spirit. Whenever you read a news, you always find 1 officer, 2 Jawans injured, 1 officer, 2 Jawans killed. Why is there always 1 officer in the mix? When the ratio of the Jawans and officers is so wide, why is there always an officer? This is the question I ask myself. The answer to that question is people are trying to physically lead from front and physically trying to make their rank and file feel safe. That's the lesson for the corporate. The more your people feel safe under you, the more they trust you, the more motivated they are going to be. And how it is so, there's more in the chapter. I've also written a chapter called Not by Brotherhood Alone. In the corporate sector, people only deal with the employees. The army deals with the family. We draw the entire family into the fabric of army, and we have gained so much from it. There are stories by 6 ladies whose husbands perished on the line of duty, and they all fought their way into the army. Which other organization does that? All right, and there are similar stories about others. The third and the last chapter I'll talk about is the fog that hangs forever. Every business, every individual, every family faces uncertainty. We are all in ambiguous situations. And one of the great things that we need to learn is how to make sense out of chaos, because life is meant to be chaotic. How do people in the army, what part of their culture drives them to make sense of that chaos? How do they deal with uncertainty? So these are 3 of the chapters that I mentioned. There are more. I wish to tell you that while it is a so-called business book, but I don't think it's just a business book. It's a book for everyone, because every organization, every club, every political party, every company, every family has a distinct culture. We are driven by it, whether we have created it thoughtfully or we have just allowed it to grow as a wild grass. Now let me do a marketing plug. So this book was released just 2 days ago. But in the first 1 month, based on pre-orders, it became number 1 on the Amazon list. It's remained 1, 2 or 3 for last 1 month. I don't know what it tells you about the quality of the book. I'll tell you, it tells you about the quality of my friendships. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think whatever we heard just now, I would like to, in my opinion, club it under the title of leadership. And I just want to say that the true quality of a leader is to think in this way: raise your words, not your voice, because it is rain that grows flowers and not thunder. Thank you so much, sir, once more. And could we have a loud round of applause? Well, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. जब ज़िंदगी बहुत सताती है तो शब्द बेहद सुकून देते हैं, एंड दैट इज़ व्हेन वी सरेंडर टू द वर्स, राइट? उसी की तारीफ में मैं कुछ कहना चाहती हूँ इससे पहले कि मैं हमारे अगले कवि को आमंत्रित करूँ. कहा है कि ना मिलता गम तो बर्बादी के अफसाने कहाँ जाते, ना मिलता गम तो बर्बादी के अफसाने कहाँ